Hello, my name is Ethan Maxwell, and today we will be discussing science fiction and realism within those universes. We'll be primarily focusing on the Expanse universe and the Star Wars universe. We're also going to be talking about the general writing elements within realism and the value of it. My first guest today is Colin Slater. He is very well experienced with podcasting and has taken high school English and science courses. He's also watched The Expanse, so he's a pretty experienced guest for this. All right, Colin, my first question is, do you prefer realism to suspension of disbelief in universes?
It really depends on the story being told. There's room for both, because when you deal with science fiction, you're dealing with stuff that whether or not it can exist, does not exist presently, so it all feels kind of fake, even if it is, grounded in, this, actual science, this could exist. But so I think you got to find a balance there, because if you had a science fiction series that was completely 100% realistic, it would probably be pretty boring, because writers are forced to take some creative liberties to make that stuff interesting. You can't exactly depict a 9-month space travel journey and make that interesting. So I guess you got to have a little bit of that. But I enjoy realism.
Well,
when it's possible.
Outside of the science fiction universe, you do have pretty realistic TV shows where they at least the science is realistic and writers are still able to make sort of enjoyable stuff.
Yeah, no, it's possible. It's very possible to make something that's realistic but also entertaining. The biggest problem there is finding the happy medium. And in some places you veer more towards entertainment, and in other ones you veer more towards realism. Not to say that realism can't be entertaining. It is. A lot of people find that entertaining, including myself, but you got to find the balance, or else it can feel a little bit too fake. Like you go and watch an action movie and you're like, okay, that's obviously not science fiction, but you get the point I'm trying to make there, going a little over the top. You're like, okay, that's a little bit too much. And then you have the ones where you feel like you're watching a documentary. So
that actually connects to my next point, which is where has it been bothersome where it was so unrealistic in any universe?
There's the elephant in the room, Star Wars. That's entertaining, inspired a bunch of cinema in the late 20th century, but nothing there is real or can be real.
So that actually, we're going to talk about it with our next guest, but do you find the level of unrealism in Star Wars bothersome?
The thing about Star Wars is it kind of set an example for, this is how you do space fantasy movies.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it. I understand it, but if more and more stuff just repeating the same formula just keeps coming out with the veering way too much on the we have magical science things.
Well, I think that Star Wars should be more viewed as Lord of the Rings, just completely magical.
I guess, yeah, but people lump it in with sci-fi, so it's hard not to judge it as a component of that.
So now to focus in on The Expanse, could you give our viewers a bit of a description on how realism affects it and how it connects to this?
All right, so I don't know if you guys have given any background as to what that is. I think it takes place in the 2200s, 2300s, a few hundred years from now. Humanity, they've colonized the solar system, but it's not exactly let's go to the other side of the galaxy in 30 seconds space. There's different planets and people live on them and all that. Realism plays a much bigger component than anything else I've seen. They don't pretend that gravity is just a thing that can be created and that plays a central role in we can only go this fast because if we go faster, we're going to literally get crushed by the force of, not gravity, but by the force of acceleration. There's also, they show the differences of, these people grew up on gravity on Earth. They're a lot shorter than everyone else, but they're stronger. They're bulkier. And then you have the people that grew up in very little gravity, and they look like me. No, they look like they're very, very tall, very slender.
Yeah, the reason we chose The Expanse of Star Wars is because they're sort of opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to realism.
Yeah.
So what scientific technologies would you say are the most realistic? You mentioned gravity, but specifically technologies that they've invented.
That's a tough one, since it's stuff that's still pretty far out, even if it can exist. But
Yeah.
like, I read something. It's like, yeah, the physics says it can exist. I don't know. Probably the way they travel and how it's not like, oh, we're bending space time, which is possible if you have the energy of, the entire universe. But and then it's more like, oh, we just can go really, really fast, but the consequence of that is it's going to put more stress on your body. So that's the moderating force. It's not, oh, just go as fast as you want and nothing bad will happen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Colin. That has been very informative. My next guest, as mentioned, will be Sean, and we will be talking more about the Star Wars universe. Thanks for watching. My next guest is going to be Sean Thornton. He's watched the Star Wars films and is a big fan of them. He's also passed high school English and science classes, so he's very experienced to talk on the realism of the Star Wars universe. Sean, do accuracies add to a medium in a universe?
I would say that as long as it's accurate within the idea of that universe, then I think it adds to it. I'm not sure just saying like, oh, it's realistic for just being the sake of realism, then I don't think, if the show's whole premise is that, yeah, this is accurate.
So it's consistency that you're looking
consistency.
for. Yeah. No, you heard the last guest, and he was talking about Star Wars and how it was unrealistic, and it may have taken away. Do you have a rebuttal for him?
Do I have a rebuttal?
Yeah.
I would say that although it may be unrealistic with our view of the universe as now, we don't, like, FTL travel was just proven possible.
Yeah.
And then so it's possible. So we don't know for sure if it's definitely going to happen or definitely cannot happen.
And what scientific technologies and stars would you say are the most realistic?
The most realistic?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I guess the idea of the blasters, because or
Plasma
FTL travel,
beams.
Plasma blast.
I mean, obviously we're ignoring, like, they do have normal projectile
They have
weapons
normal
and stuff and food.
like the things that we have now, we're ignoring.
Yeah.
Because of course those are realistic.
But holograms, lightsabers.
Lightsabers, I think it within the realm of possibility to get something similar to a lightsaber, but nothing like.
But it would have to have a fuel source.
Fuel source.
Yeah.
I don't think we can come up with a static beam of energy.
Yeah.
Although that would be very cool.
Were there any technologies in the universe where it became bothersome?
I would argue I can think of one scene in The Last Jedi where they had the warp hyperspeed is what they use, right? Light speed? Yeah, light speed into the entire fleet of the First Order. And it just annihilated it from one ship. And that doesn't seem consistent with what they've done before. Like, for the Death Star, why did they have to sacrifice all those many people when they could have just said, oh, let's just sacrifice one capital ship and light speed into the Death Star? Why did they have to find the plans? Why did they have to proton torpedo the reactor? Why did they have to do all that when they could have just done that simple task?
It's interesting that you bring up that example because it's from one of the more controversial Star Wars movies, and that scene specifically has been the source of a lot of fan debate. So it sort of is evidence to your point that was inconsistent. Fans noticed that, and that did cause a dip in the ratings. All right. What aspects do you think how far do you think suspension of disbelief can go in a movie to make it better?
I think you can go as far as you want to, as long as you keep the universe consistent with other media.
And we were talking about that earlier.
Yeah. So other examples of just completely out there media would be like Avengers, where it's consistent within their universe, but it's nowhere near realistic compared to our universe. Like, you can't have a superhero coming down at the speed of sound and just completely annihilate a spaceship that's hovering over.
So sort of as a litmus test for whether something is consistent is whether viewers are able to sort of, it's able to be predicted. Not that it's easy to predict, just that it's possible to predict. what will happen. So you'll sort of see in Star Wars, they have a base set of rules of how the Force works and stuff, but like, and you can add new things, like Force healing is a very recent advancement, but it sort of makes sense within the universe. So what do you have to say? Like, do you think Star Wars is pretty able to be predicted?
I think Star Wars is pretty predictable and when it's like able to be predicted, because the lore, the theory community in Star Wars is massive.
Yeah.
And there's just so much information that can be extracted. Like in The Mandalorian, there were teams of people figuring out where that guy is. What's I keep thinking like Tarkin, but it's not Tarkin.
Jarg, the Mandalorian.
No, where the bad guy in The Mandalorian.
Oh yeah.
That guy.
The actor is Carlos.
Yeah. But where his ship was, by taking a little detail of the map, and they were able to predict, oh, here he is. It looks like he's on his way to Camino, which is the cloning facility. So they could come up with a possible motive behind where he is and why he's going there, which I thought was very cool.
Yeah, that whole predictable argument sort of connects to one criticism, although I am a fan of the universe, that I have of Marvel, where the action, specifically like Doctor Strange and like the magic that they do, it's always, everything is a new move. It's either him waving his hands around, doing cool little visual effects, but you have no idea what's really going on.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in Star Wars, you have lightsabers, blasters, force powers. You know what powers they have, and you know what they're doing.
Yeah. So like you know that a lightsaber can deflect a blaster. That's
exactly.
common knowledge. But you know that a lightsaber can deflect force lightning. Yeah.
So if you see a problem that the characters face, you may have your own way, creative way that you have as a viewer of thinking how they can get around it. Like, oh, use your lightsaber to cut this door open instead of going all the way around. Like the viewer knows that that's a possibility. All right. Thank you, Sean. This has been a very informative podcast. We touched on more universes than just the Marvel one, and then just the Star Wars one. We included The Expanse and Marvel, and we've learned a lot about realism within sci-fi universes. Thanks for watching.